2 Kings chapter 7, verses 3 through 4, and we're reading from the Message. You'll read these words. It happened that 4 lepers were sitting just outside the city gate. They said to one another, "What are we doing sitting here at death's door? If we enter the famine-struck city, we'll die. If we stay here, we'll die. So let's take our chances in the camp of Aram and throw ourselves on their mercy. If they receive us, we'll live. If they kill us, we'll die. We've got nothing to lose." Turn to your neighbor and say, "Neighbor, the preacher's going to preach on, I know I have a future, but my past keeps calling me back." You may be seated. I know I have a future, but my past keeps calling me back. No matter how painful your past, no matter how torn your present situation may be, is it all right if I tell you the process may be long and tedious, but the blessing will be worth the wait? But God has an incredible future lined up just for you. Turn to your neighbor and say, "Just for me." I wonder, can I get just a few folk in here who believe that your best days are not over? You haven't struck out yet. You still have one more strike. You can still swing the bat. Is that right? Your greatest moments are not done. You have not yet reached your highest level. It's not behind you, nor is it around you. They are still ahead of you. Even if you have suffered friends betraying you, denial and disappointments, I just stopped by here to encourage you for the year 2014 and tell you, even though you may feel that you have lost everything, what you need to do is to look up and remember. When you are down to nothing, that's when God is up to something. Y'all just don't want to talk to me this morning. And when you get to the point where you have nothing to lose, it's at that moment that you have everything to gain in your life. Even though you think you've lost everything. But what God wants to give you is not behind you. It's in front of you. It's ahead of you. That's why in your life storms keep coming. I understand one would think, and perhaps one would hope, that when you have weathered so many storms, you wouldn't have to worry about facing any more storms. But in fact, it's the reverse. If your storm keeps coming in your life, if you've had some financial storms, the ill winds of being broke. Anybody in here know what it is to feel broke? Now, I'm going to ask you one more time. Does anybody in here understand what it is to be broke? I mean, so broke you can't even pay attention. I mean, so broke you don't even have a penny to your. Anybody in here know what I'm talking about? You're so broke that broke is broke. Just as soon as you walk in the door, rush to the phone. If you don't have call the ID no more, it's a bill collector. In your life, you've had some physical storms, but just as soon as you get better, something else breaks down. Just as soon as you get your mind adjusted to settling for this, you have to settle for that. And as soon as you get your head screwed on right, something else will pop up, and there you go again. I was happy last week. I was so happy. I was telling Ron and them that the doctor said I could get off of this blood thinner, and I was happy, and I was doing what I wanted to do, and the doctor gives me a call. He says, make sure you go take the sonogram test. I went and took the test, and I really didn't care because the doctor said everything was going to be all right. And I walked in there, and I got the x-ray, and the doctor called me Wednesday. That's why I was kind of down. He called me Wednesday. He said, I got good news and I got bad news. I said, what are you talking about? Give me the bad news first. He said, well, the bad news is you still have a clot that's dissolving in your real deep veins, but the other blood clots in the other vein is good. I said, what does that mean? He said, you got to take that medication some more. I tell you, when you think everything is all right, trouble pops up one more time. You keep asking yourself the same old question, why me? Anybody do that? Why me? I study hard, but I keep failing the test. I don't mistreat any women, but yet I can't get one. I fix my hair just right. I've ordered my steps the correct way, and all that is attracted to me is he's either married, trying to be a player, or a pimp. He has a BMW, black man not working, looking for somebody to be his mama. I'm trying to raise myself, and sometimes I don't know who or what it is. I know I have royalty in my bloodline. I have a future, but for some reason or another, I cannot get what I want. Well, let me share this one thing with you. You keep on waiting because God has something in store for you that you could never dream of. All y'all don't want to talk. Just as soon as I come to church and try to get my praise on, the very second I feel relief and the praise I need is somebody or someone tries to mess up my praise and tries to stop my joy, and you start asking the question, I know I'm doing the best I can do this and I can do this, but God has promised me that I have a future, and my question is, if I really have a future, why is it that my past just keeps calling me back? There goes somebody messing with you. Something happens, it turns your lights out, it puts water on your praise, and it takes the clapping out of your hands. But I just stopped by here on my way to heaven to tell you, don't give up, because your blessing is on the way. Look at your neighbor and say, your blessing is on the way. You see, you cannot resign from being God's child. You missed that. I'm going to say that again. You cannot resign from being God's child. You have to learn how to hang in there, for God has a blessing just for you. And I know you can't see it. You can't even feel it. But I just have a feeling everything is going to be all right. Because listen at this. God has you on his calendar of events. I said God has you on his calendar of events. It's in your future. You are God's child. Didn't he? Didn't he tell you to ask? Oh, come on now. Didn't he tell you to ask and it shall be given? Didn't he tell you to knock and the doors shall be open? Didn't he tell you that he would make your enemies your footstool? God says, I need you to seize the promise. Step out into your future. And my question is, do I have any steppers up in here? I'm going to ask you again, do I have any steppers up in here? I'm going to ask you one more time. Maybe I need to ask the balcony. Do y'all have any steppers? I can't hear y'all. Do you have any steppers up in here? Jesus said, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. I don't know about you, but I'm a stepper. For while the children of Israel were praying, they were marching into their inheritance. Because God has not only permitted your past, he has also provided for your present and your future. Ooh. See, God has foreordained and he has orchestrated a future for you. Come here, Paul. I had not seen, ear had not heard, neither had it entered into the hearts of men the things which God has prepared for his people. Jeremiah says, I know the plans that I have for you. He says, the Lord says that you shall prosper and he will give you a future. God has designed our future and calls upon each of us and says, if my people who are called by my name should humble themselves and repent and seek my face, I indeed will heal their land. So God says, seize it and then step into it by faith. Now, I know what I just said in practical terms. It's rather hard to do, for in the first place, it requires us to embrace something that is not yet a fact. Did y'all hear that? I mean, it's kind of hard to accept something that God says he's going to give you by faith, and it is not a fact. You missed that. I'll say it one more time. It's hard to accept some concrete evidence that God is going to give you something because you've been looking for it for a long time. But God says, I'm going to give it to you, but you've got to have the faith to believe that it is a fact. It's not been tested. Secondly, you're the one being called upon to accept and embrace that which you have never received. Did y'all get that? The second thing is you are being called upon to accept something that is not in reality a fact. You still, am I too deep today? I'm going to say it one more time. And that's why so many of us stop praying. Because we don't see the full evidence of what God has promised us. What God is trying to get you to do is to accept the reality of it so that it can become a fact. How many times we pray and in the back of our minds don't think God's going to answer the prayer? Can I say it one more time? How many times we actually pray and it's called our prayer of faith and we don't believe what we're saying? Now, if you don't believe what you're saying, because it takes a whole lot of faith to believe that you're speaking to somebody who you've never seen or you've never felt. And not only that, it takes some more faith to believe that there is somebody over 93 million miles away that says that they will hear and answer your prayer. Did y'all hear that? Which means then, if I'm praying, I already have to have a prayer of faith that what I say goes beyond 93 million miles. I already got to have that kind of faith. And then secondly, I've got to have enough faith to believe that what I'm saying to this person that I have never seen, never touched, I've got to have some faith that what I am saying is being heard and finally will be answered. But here I am. I'm praying that prayer, and in the back of my mind, I don't believe it. Now watch this. It's God's job to take charge and control the storms in your life. Y'all missed that one. I'm going to say it one more time. It is God's job to take over the storms in our lives. Because what God allows, he allows Satan to bring the storms. But God is the one that controls the storm. So then there's a reason why you keep having storms. Noah, God sent a storm to you. It rained 40 days and 40 nights. The only human beings that were saved were 7. There were more animals saved than men, which means animals have more sense. A bird knows he's a bird. A lion knows that he's a lion. But some of us don't know what we are. I wish y'all would talk to me. Jonah, what about your storm? I didn't expect no storm. Everything was quiet, but when I decided to run away from God, trouble came my way. Peter, what about you? Well, I saw Jesus walking on the Sea of Galilee, and I asked him, could I come out? And he said, yes. And I got out, and I started walking, but then I started thinking about me-itis. Me-itis is me. And I started thinking about, fellas, can't y'all see what I'm doing? I'm walking on water. And that's when I started falling. Peter, what did you do? I started praying. What did you say? I said, Lord, help me. Well, Peter, is that all you said? Because so many of us pray, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. My thing is learn how to pray exactly for what you need. The next point, failures make us strong. Disappointments make us strong. Setbacks make us strong. Our hang-ups make us strong. Even your funky ways can make you strong. How can you move ahead in spite of what you know and understand about yourself? Ooh, I'm glad you asked. Just how do you go on living? Push on your neighbor and say, I told you this wasn't about me. Oh, y'all missed that. Push on your neighbor and say, neighbor, I told you this wasn't about me. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you see other people getting ahead, don't you? You see other people pulling up their bootstraps, but you can't see yourself getting ahead. Oh, that's the question. Because even if you have suffered setbacks and disappointments, even though you've had all of these problems, you cannot be paralyzed to your problems. And your problem is too many of us are cemented into our past. Wait, you know what cemented into your past is? Cemented into your cycle. Did y'all hear what I just said? I'm going to say it one more time. My past has me so tied into this cycle that I don't believe I can ever get out of it. Watch this. Family structure. Adele and I, we have 3 children and 1 grandson now. But we have 3 children. You have children. Now watch this. Just for the heck of it right quick, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to turn to your neighbor, 30 seconds to turn to your neighbor and say to your neighbor what dreams you have for your child. Huh? Yeah. Stop. I want you to stop now. Listen at what you said. And I didn't hear what you said. I guarantee you the dreams that you have for your children is to have a better position than you. Am I right about it? Which means that that is how the cycle is broken. And in the process of the cycle being broken, who has to sacrifice? The parents. The parents have to do what? The parents have to do what? God already sacrificed for you so you could have your inheritance. He's already made the plan up for you. Y'all not even shouting. Y'all don't know when to shout. God has already paid the price. But now, I haven't forgotten my text. These 4 unnamed lepers in the text. They have no name, but yet their resume stands tall concerning what or who they were called. It is not apparent. Let's let this try to get a little high. It's not apparent in the English translations, but in the Westcott Hart manuscript of the ancient Mesopotamic Hebrew text, the word used to talk about them is not the word idiom, which is used in Genesis to talk about their origin of humanity as related to the creation of man and his connection to God. Which means that the word Hebrew is enos, which is only used to indicate people with some type of insufficiency, some type of issue, some type of problem, some type of inability and weakness. What they are calling the text is to signal to the reader that there was something wrong with them, that there was something missing from them, that there was something not present in them that rendered them less than what they could have been or should have been. Oops. Let me help you quickly. Our problem, it does not matter what people call you. It's what you answer to that matters. See, that makes all the difference. The text tells us a description of their impaired humanity. But as we read on, we catch a glimpse of their critical condition. For they had terminal leprosy. Their diagnosis was death. Their prognosis was death. They were designed to be in the community of the dysfunctional. They were lepers. They didn't have long to live. They didn't count their lives in weeks, months, or years, but in minutes, hours, and days. They were classified as dead men walking. They had to live outside of the city. Not only did they have to live outside of the city, but they had to say that they were unclean, which means they had a problem they couldn't hide. How many problems do we hide? You see, it's one thing when you can hide your issues, but it's another thing when your business is out in public domain. How do you handle it? When you are not known by your name, but you are known by your condition. Because some of you are in that condition right now, you really don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, how can you start loving somebody else? People don't know you by your name. They know you by your problem. Folk know you by your challenges, but don't know about your character. They see your struggles, but they are not concerned about your spirit. You see, people have labeled you. They have limited you, but can I tell you again, it's not what they call you. It's what you answer to that really counts. Can I get somebody to talk to me? These 4 men were lepers. Not only that, there was a famine in the land. The Syrians had surrounded the city, and there definitely was no food for people like lepers who were bound to die. Look at it. They were nothing. They were called nothing. They were expected to be nothing. Sounds like they were expected to do nothing. They were, look at the text, they were just to sit at the gate. And yet, while others looked at them as useless nobodies, they saw themselves in a different light. They saw themselves in a different perspective. I wish I could get a few folk in here to say, I'm somebody. Yeah. I don't care what you think about me. I know three things. I know I'm saved. I know I'm God's child. And I know I've been redeemed. See, they realize when you are down to nothing, God is up to something. And when you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain. So why not? It is. Their belief in themselves creates a platform for their expectations and their blessings. Which means, get this good, I can't just sit there and cry. I gotta move. Did y'all hear what I just said? I can't expect for stuff to come to me. I've got to go and claim it and get it. Are y'all in here? I can't just say the world owes me. The world doesn't owe you anything. You got to get out there and get it. I was talking to some guys at the gym, and do you know that welfare benefits are almost on the verge of being wiped out? Did y'all hear what I just said? Did you also know that Medicare and Medicaid is about to go down to only 75%? Which means you are responsible for how much? 35%. That means all of y'all better vote. Y'all hear what I say? That means all of y'all better vote. Because if the Republicans have their way, everything is going to be changed. And the thing about it is, it is not going to affect our hue. It's going to affect everybody. So now, in order to walk into your future, you must step into your future by faith. These men stepped forward in faith, because what's ahead of you is greater than what is behind you. See, the best of your days is going to be the rest of your days. Look at the text. These men have a conversation, but even in their desperation, they still had enough information to give them some determination and provide them with some motivation. They had three options. How many options? One option was go back to the city, go back to where they used to be, go back in time, back to the past, which was a familiar place, but a place where they were no longer welcome. Ooh. They were categorized in that place. Option two, stay right where they were. Look at the text. Sitting at the gate. Be still. Be predictable. Just maybe somebody might have mercy on me and give me something. Option three, Take a chance. Take a chance. How many of you have A plus credit? That means 900 score, 800, 800? No, ain't nobody raising their hand. Okay, wait, okay. All right. When you get ready to go buy a car, I don't mean a cash car. I don't mean a cash car. I mean when you get ready to go buy a real car, the first thing they ask you is, how is your? And you say, it ain't too good. Come on, folks, talk to me. Isn't that what you say? Or you say, it's all right. And then your next question is, do you think I can get this car? And then the man said, well, let's fill out the application and see. And there you go. You're moving forward by filling out the application, but do you have the faith to believe that when you fill this application out, you're going to get the car? Here comes the problem. Here comes the problem. You fill out the application, and the man said, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, we have approved you for this car. And then when you ask, how much is the note? Because the interest rate is 29.99. Along with your down payment. You look at it, but you still go and buy it. And you find yourself falling in a financial situation. You ever drove by some houses of our color? They got a Cadillac in front of a shack. And you come on, talk to me. A Mercedes in front of a shack. Some folks live in their Cadillac. But God says He doesn't want you to do that. God says, get a house first. Get a what first? Get a what first? Get a what first? So they took a chance. It's all right if I tell you, you've never seen your tomorrows, but God told me to tell you by His grace, your tomorrow is going to be better than your present day. Now, it was faith. Now, faith is believing that that not yet, I'm tongue-tied. Faith is believing that the not yet is already here. Can I say it again? Faith is believing that your not yet is already here. Because the future that God has prepared for you, He's constructing it for you. And the reason why He's constructing it for you is because He has promised that you will rise above the high places of the earth, which means it's not in your now, it's in your not yet. It means it's packaged at your next step. See, God is preparing you for your next level. Now, there are some individuals in here who can testify that God has blessed them in times past, and God is going to bless them tomorrow. Are there any people like that in here? I never forget. To me, one of the hardest classes I took in college was Greek. And I really studied hard for Greek. I really didn't understand why I needed Greek, because I didn't speak the language. I mean, I'm speak English. I don't speak Greek. But it was one of the requirements that I had to pass in order to be a preacher. And the thing about the Greek class, it wasn't just for a semester. You might could make it through a semester, but the Greek class was for an entire miserable year. And it's like I can see it now. The circumflexes, the hieroglyphics, and the this and the that and the other, and the symbols and the words. And when we came to class, we had to come with a Greek Bible. Back in them days, you didn't have the iPhone. You didn't have an iPad. Matter of fact, they had just come out with a book that had the Greek on the bottom and the English at the top. Greek transliteration. And so I never forget, we tried to cover up the Greek transliteration Bible because it was like the same size, and we tried to put paper on it. So when Dr. Rogers would ask us a question, we could act big and bad. Dr. Rogers knew the whole game. So when we came to class, we had to come to class with everything uncovered. And so I'll never forget Dr. Rogers. Sometimes he'd go from person to person, and he would say text. And he would tell us to say the text in the Greek. And he would call different names. Y'all know Pastor Ford. He'd call his name. And he gave him a text. And whenever you're in that section, God bless you. You know, sooner or later, your name gonna come up. And so Dr. Rogers called my name. And he said, John 3:16. I said, oh, praise the Lord, for God so loved the world. No, that's not it. And so I'm going to make this long story short. We got index cards. And we would put the English on one side and the Greek on the other side, and we'd start learning it. But look like the more we learned, the stupider we got in Greek. And I'll never forget, took our final exam. Stayed up all night studying for that test. Anybody know about staying up all night studying for tests? And you know, the professors think you've been cramming, but I hadn't really been cramming. I had been studying all the time. And Dr. Rogers, you know, I don't know about some professors, I think they're dirty and no good. Because what they teach you in class is not what's on the test. They do that on purpose. I really believe they do. I don't care what nobody, I believe they do that on purpose. And so, day of the final exam came. There's a lot of pastors that y'all don't know. Well, y'all remember Pastor Calvin Preston. He was sitting over there, and I was sitting over here, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, because we were all in the study group. And we looked at this man, we done studied all night long, and there ain't nothing on this test. I just could see myself having to take Greek all over again. And so I did the best I could with what I had. Y'all don't know what I'm talking about? And Dr. Rogers, Dr. Rogers he would post the grades on his door. Anybody know anything? I guess with y'all they put it on the computer, but with us he would post it on the door. And Calvin and I got up the next morning, we went to his office, and on the door, I ain't gonna tell you what it was. I'll tell you this much, it wasn't a passing grade. But at the end of the line, it says, if you wish to speak to Dr. Rogers, sign your name. And when we had gotten there was a whole lot of other guys had already signed the name. And so me and Calvin signed our name. And our appointment was to see him the next day. My appointment was at 2:30. Knocked on the door, went in, and I sat down and said, "How you doing, Doc? How you doing, Cox?" I said, "Doc, you know, I need at least a C to graduate." And he looked at my paper. He looked at it again. Then he started laughing. I said, "What you laughing at? This ain't no laughing matter. If I tell my mom and dad I can't graduate this year, they're going to kill me." There ain't nothing to laugh about. Oh, he just thought it was so funny. He said, "You missed a C by 2 points." I said, "What does that mean?" He started laughing. I said, "Dr. Rogers, listen, don't play with me." He said, "Cox, I'm going to ask you one more time." John 3:16. I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Just say it." Ooh, y'all missed that. Just say it. And I said, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." His response was, "That's a good English translation." He says, "But I know what you meant." God only asks us to say a word. He knows what we mean. If we believe it, he knows what we mean. He knows exactly how it is.